Hey, what is up, you sexy beasts? Tristan here, and I'm sorry I didn't do the scary story last night. I was very tired, and it would not have been a quality one had I done it last night. So I'm actually going to do it right now. It's going to be the best damn scary story you've ever heard. I pre-read it. Holy shit, this thing is legit. I really do enjoy it, and it's also very just interesting in general. So, alright, so what I'm actually going to do before I read the story is I am just going to give you guys a nice little outro. I hope you guys do enjoy the story. Don't forget to rate it if you guys did enjoy. It's pretty creepy. Have a great day, and remember the fact that I love you. Enjoy the story. Before I begin, let me explain what is happening to me. The technical term for what I am is called an eidetic. You've probably heard of people with photographic memories. Well, that's what it is, except eidetics are not limited by the visual sense in what they remember. While each case varies in their specific capabilities, feeling of taste, sound, smell, and touch can also be vividly recalled at any time. Some eidetics are also known to have the ability to see what they are thinking. This is a category that I belong to. I have to admit, this ability does have its perks. School is a breeze because I can see my notes next to every exam that I take. I'm able to bring up happy memories that I have with family and friends to help brighten their days. Whenever I get bored, I can read books that I've read or watch TV that I've already seen in my head. Seems cool, right? At least, that's what people tell me. I wish they were right. What they don't know is that I could give anything in the world to get rid of this. The way my vision works is that in addition to what my eyes actually see, my brain overlaps whatever I'm thinking of over this as a result of the combination of the two. Therefore, the effect of my mental vision is limited during the day because my actual vision interferes with it. But whenever I go to bed and the room is totally dark, my mental vision is giving free reign of what I see. Now, one might ask, why is this so bad? As long as you think of pleasant things, this must be a very relaxing way to go to bed, right? That would imply that you are in complete control of every thought that goes into your head at all times. This, however, is almost never the case. The brain is constantly bombarded with what are called intrusive thoughts. I'm sure you've heard the normal creaks and groans from your house at night, and you think that maybe someone or something is walking around in the dark. Fear swells in for a few seconds, but after a minute or so, nothing happens. You're able to shrug it off as your imagination and then go to sleep. This is an intrusive thought. Though you know there's nothing there, your brain forces you to think, at least for a moment, that there is. Except with me, these intrusive thoughts conjure an image that accompanies the sound. Sounds in the night are always accompanied by some sort of creature walking around my room and standing there watching me. Obviously, this made growing up hard. I couldn't understand any of this when I was young, and I just assumed that there were monsters in my room when I went to bed. Many a night, my parents would rush into my room after hearing my cries and try to console me, even though their presence never made the image go away. Eventually, I could understand that these images weren't real because they were all things that I had seen before, and being able to recognize where they came from had a calming effect. I learned to live with and even anticipate the entities that would appear each night. Until a few months ago. I had just gotten back from my apartment after a long night working at the hospital, and I noticed that my roommate wasn't home. I assumed that he was out at the bars, thought nothing of it, and went inside. As I opened the door to my apartment, the normal darkness greeted me and my mental vision took over as I walked over to the light switch. Just as I was about to turn on the lights, I saw a man at the end of the hallway looking at me. I could tell he was just an image, but for the first time, he was something I had no memory of. He was extremely fat, had no clothing except for a small, black bolo hat on his balding head. His face was a light, sickly purplish color and appeared to be peeling across his clearly disease-ridden body. His mouth hung open, revealing a set of gangrenous teeth and pus-laden stump of a tongue. But the thing that stuck out the most was that he had no eyes or even eye sockets. They were completely replaced with lumps of flesh that seemed to grow from the edges of his hat. My hand hesitated on the light switch, and my fear was temporarily replaced with curiosity. I wanted to see what this man would do if I sat here for a while. He was, after all, just an image that my brain had conjured up. So I took a seat on my couch and observed quietly. After a few minutes, he started to move. Like all of my other hallucinations, his actions made no noise in the real world. He just felt silently shuffled around my apartment. He didn't seem to be heading towards me at all, nor did he appear to have any clear destination in mind. I started to lose interest, got up and turned on the lights and get ready for bed. Then he spoke. A fear, the likes of which I have never known, resonated down my entire spine. None of my hallucinations had ever made their own noise, let alone form words. I tried to rationalize that maybe I'd heard people talking on the other side of my window, or perhaps outside my door, but before I had the chance to validate my claims, he spoke again. She just wanted to see you again. His voice was garbled and deep. He spoke very quietly, but I could hear every word. Panic took hold of me and I bolted for the light switch. As always, the lights instantly made the man disappear and I was left alone in my apartment. Relief washed over me, and I tried to make sense of what had happened. I knew that the voice had come from the man, but I couldn't figure out how that was even possible. I didn't recognize him from any scary movie I had seen or any picture on the internet, nor could I recall talking to anyone like that. No matter what conclusion I came to, I knew I'd see him when I went to bed. He didn't disappoint. No sooner had I jumped under my covers, he waddled into my room. I tried to distract myself by thinking of other things. I resorted to my normal tactic of getting an image of my sister to appear and calm me down. She was always so understanding, even when we were kids, of what happens to me. Her presence made me feel at peace, and I relied on her to get through some of my more severe episodes. However, her image seemed to have an effect on him. He immediately stopped his shuffling and seemed to turn where she was. It was difficult to describe what he did next because it makes me question my sanity, but he somehow forced her to fade from my vision. It wasn't possible. I should have been able to keep her in my vision if I thought of her, but for the first time, I couldn't. As soon as she faded, he spoke again. You should have been there. She thought about you at the end. A memory was then thrust into my mind. It was of my grandmother. She had been in the hospital for the last few months of her life, and my dad used to take my sister and I to visit her. My grandmother adored us and absolutely loved when we came to see her. One time, when my dad was going to visit, I told him that I wanted to hang out with my friends instead, and he obliged. That was the last time that my dad went to see her, and she died a few days later. I felt horrible for not going, and I regretted it for a long time. These feelings of regret and sorrow overwhelmed me, and then I suddenly realized the meaning behind the man's words. He was somehow able to project a memory that I didn't want to think about and relieve the emotions I felt during it. He has visited me every night since then. Each time, a horrible moment in my life is wrenched from my subconscious, and I endure the sorrow of each event. Each night, I am unable to cope with the overwhelming surge of emotions that with little sleep I get is plagued by nightmares of these memories. I see no end in sight, and I'm at my wit's end. I often think of the nature of heaven and hell and whether there is or is not a God. Originally, I thought a God couldn't exist that would allow this kind of torment to be afflicted on a person who was seemingly did nothing to deserve it. However, I cannot think of a more terrifying vision of hell than this. To be forced to relive and reconsider each bad decision in one's life is the ultimate and most effective method of punishment to a soul. It punishes you to your breaking point. I can only see one way to escape this. If my family reads this, I just want you to know that I love you all. I'm sorry for the pain I've caused. Hopefully you will understand.